Welcome to the dance, everyone. This is a podcast centered around the world of tree climbing competition and those that devote their lives to its pursuit. My name is Jeff Inman, and I'm proud to share some stories of bells rung, swings had, centers that clanked, and the future of our craft. Harness up and get ready to sound the horn. This is the Smooth Saw. What's up, everyone? It's episode 4. Welcome back. It's Friday night. The kids are mostly down. Lucy's kind of making a little bit of noise, but she'll probably be all right. Uh, yeah, it's been a minute. The what was neat, we're just coming off of the 2023 ISA International Tree Climbing Competition, and that's really what we're going to be chatting through tonight is that whole experience. But one of the uh, one of the things that you know making this stuff you don't really, or at least I didn't really know how many people are listening to my ramblings on late night stuff that then just gets uploaded in the internet. So it was pretty cool to hear climbers, just being like, "Where's episode 4, man?" Like, it's been a minute. So it has been a minute, just to kind of give a little bit of context around that and understanding as to why in the month leading up to internationals, the family has, we've all been kind of sick, and it's been just super hectic and crazy in a way that was kind of unique, but also it's never fun, trying to feel like you're last minute cramming for for that like test, and in this case being the competition, uh, and it just seems like everything is consuming every bit of your attention. So then this this podcast that is still so new and not still not in the normal flow of my weekly cadence, it it's just really easy for it to fall to the wayside when other things seem to be priority. And and it's also, July and August, so that means the work day is warm here in Virginia. So the nightly routine with the kids is we, all get together in Cedar's room and pray and read a story or some poetry, and and read some scripture, and then put him down to bed. And Kelsey takes Lucy and puts her down, and then I wind up laying down in Cedar's room to try to just keep him calm and everything. And what has been happening is I just pass out in his room, just being super tired from work and everything, and then I wake up, and then I just want to go to bed. So that's a long-winded kind of explanation as to why why we're just now having episode 4. But I am deeply appreciative and grateful for everyone that's listening, and it's just neat. It's yeah, it's just a neat thing. So yeah, so episode 4, what are we talking about this go round? It's going to be about the International Tree Climbing Championship that just happened. So first things first, of course, like big congratulations to Barton Allen Hall and Joe Hedger for both defending their titles. A second one for Bardo, and I believe it's the sixth one for Joe, which is just amazing. It's super cool. Super cool that they both defended from last year for sure. And and they were great climbs. The everything about Sunday, aside from being on the outside of the ring, watching it all happen. But it was really cool to watch all the climbers go about it. And there's a ton of grit, ton of heart that went into it, and a whole lot of smooth. So that was super neat to be able to watch everybody throw down in that way. So yeah, just for maybe those who are listening that don't fully No, what was happening this past weekend? It climbers from all over the world that qualified for the international, and pretty sure we talked about that in episode 3 as to how somebody qualifies for making it to the international or worlds. If I bounce back and forth between calling it in ITCC or the international and worlds, that's it's all the same thing. But people qualify to be there, and climbers, male and female representative from each chapter in the ISA descend onto a uh, really seemingly unsuspecting town that I mean, they may know that there's this tree climbing event that's happening because there's the annual conference that happens, and then there's this tree climbing event that happens along with it, or at least that it's just kind of how it feels of like, yeah, there's gonna be this educational thing, and then, oh, by the way, we're gonna have this climbing thing that's happening as well. But but I don't feel like any town is actually ready for what's about to happen and who's about to come into town. The unique character that we arborists are, and the uh, just zeal that we bring to an event is I don't think any town is ever fully ready for it. So it's super fun to hear stories, you know, the next morning about like what different people got into, and even like as everybody's getting into town and catching up, like this is in a lot of ways like the big family reunion, because I get to see my friends from different parts of the world that I pretty much only ever get to see at this event. So like folks from Australia and New Zealand, uh, that I just love being around so much that I only get to hang out with those climbers at this event because it's just a lot. And I'm super excited for the international to be in New Zealand in 2025. So we'll all get to go down there and party down in that part of the world, and get to experience it because they have well, I mean, real so like primarily it feels like the international happens in the States a lot, and it makes sense in a lot of ways. Like logistically, it's easy to bring people in, but it's still crazy expensive, and definitely a blessing in so many ways to, for our family to not have to invest an incredible amount of money and time and energy and resource and all that stuff into just travel. Whereas like, the Aussies came from, really far away. It's what, like a 13-hour flight and a whole bunch of money. And then, then there's the, if you're a business owner in a different country and you're representing your chapter and you go somewhere, then, if you're a small company, you may not be making money that week. So it's just a massive commitment. And, that's, I think I said it on Levi's podcast, but, you know, training for these events and showing up to these events, like sacrifice is a pretty profound synonym that goes along with it. Like there's an incredible amount of sacrifice, like time, away from other things that you could be doing, the energy that it takes out of you. Like today, um, you know, climbed, pretty much all day, and then got back to Camp True Timber and ran a masters because I'll be daggone if I'm not going to keep pushing myself and training. And that's what that is. It's a sacrifice because that's time that doesn't get devoted to hanging out with my work peeps, at least for that 25-minute run. So you know, but then there's also the sacrifice, like financial sacrifice that uh, and then the sleep deprivation that that comes with travel and all that stuff. So it's not a little thing in any way, shape, or form. This passion, of mine and of all y'all that are listening to this. And it's something I take a great amount of pride in, and and you know I know I don't stand alone with that mindset, but it is a reality of and something that we all have to kind of make peace with and understand and really call it what it is. This all this time, energy, effort, sacrifice that we put into this thing that we love so much. So I'm a big why guy, like I've talked about before, big on passion, and I can't really imagine doing really anything else with my own personal pursuit inside my passion of tree climbing is pushing for this event. So anyway, super blessed to be able to go to the international again. This is my fourth go round at it, and definitely a unique experience. Rocky Mountain chapter hosted it this year, and it was in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Uh, I, along with so many other people, were like, what are we going to be climbing in New Mexico? Like, it's the desert, it's in August, like, it's going to be hot. Like, the amount of times somebody's like, oh, well, it's a dry heat. Yeah, okay, great. Hot is, it's like, it's still hot, though, in, in New Mexico. Uh, and inside of that, again, like, what are we going to be climbing? Like, um, tumbleweeds, cactus, like, and it just spoke in so many ways to just like the ignorance and I mean, like, I know what's general species grow in that part of the state, so I was kind of expecting that we'd be in cottonwoods. I knew Siberian elm was a pretty predominant species down there. As we're getting off the airplane and leaving the airport, headed to our Airbnb, I'm seeing like honey locust and some pecan. I saw a few hackberries and I got really excited because hackberries are between hackberry and willow oak. Those are my two favorite trees to climb, and which we can. I'm happy to explain that at a different point. And if you don't know anything, that's I got really excited when I saw hackberries, and then we roll up to the park and see that everything is a Siberian elm. Like, I don't know if I've ever seen that many Siberian elms in one place. So it was, um, initially you kind of get that like confused dog look, like tilt your head to the side and be like, huh, well, what's this gonna be? Uh, in my career, we spent Kelsey and I lived in the Shenandoah Valley, Waynesboro, Virginia, for several years, and did tree work out there for a while. And the park that I climbed in predominantly had a bunch of Siberian elm. We worked on Siberian elm a lot. It's not for anyone that knows that species knows that it's not typically a tree where you're like, yes, I can't wait to go climb Siberian elm. There's It's just not that way. But I mean, to give the volunteers, credit where credit is due, they made those trees, very enjoyable. Not, work climb. I had fun in the work climb. Sounds like, most people had a lot more fun than they were expecting in the work climb. All that stuff. Like, it's just a testament to what like volunteers who are passionate and driven to make the best possible thing that they possibly can uh, out of what they have available. Right? It was a beautiful picture of arborists at work, and I'm super super appreciative of the volunteers, all the hard work that went into not only like finding that park, because especially talking with Rip Tompkins, he was like, this was like the only place we could do this. Like from him doing training down in that part of the world for everything that he's contributed and all that and his knowledge was just he was like this was like hands down the best place to do it. So like in terms of being there in Albuquerque. So it was this was the plan from the COVID year, the year that never happened, that nobody wants to really remember or fully talk about, I guess. But yeah, it was supposed to be in Albuquerque. Rocky Mountain chapter was supposed to host it in you know COVID year, so it was at 2020, and yeah, it didn't happen. So we cycled back and had it in Albuquerque. And again, like it's just a testament to like just arborist of like, okay, you say it's in New Mexico, that seems like it's going to be kind of interesting and kind of wild, but you know what? We're going to show up and we're going to throw down and we're going to have the best possible time and experience we can and give it everything we've got. So it was just neat to watch people problem solve and be able to interact with folks and kind of workshop different ideas and talk through scenarios and all that kind of stuff. And, again, just to meet more arborists from across the globe, see people that I haven't seen in a while. So super fun, super fun. I will always love the international. Um, I said it like I think during the walkthrough of just talking with some folks that it was their first international of like, yeah, this is, you know, I don't do I don't consume any drugs, like, have a little bit of, wine occasionally, but how I describe the international is like this is the most addictive like kind of drug or addictive thing I can think of in my life of just wanting to be back at internationals, just to be around the best climbers in the world, and just try to push myself inside of that. And it's just so awesome that this exists, that our industry is full of folks that love this much as well. I mean, like people bringing families from all over the place, folks like flying from different parts of the world just to like be there to experience it, not necessarily to volunteer or to climb, but just to be there, to hang out and support their climbers from their chapter and see other people and uh, it's just super neat. So to kind of get into a little bit more of the, I guess, specifics, I don't really have like a great, I guess, format for talking through this, but I'll just kind of start with how our whole trip started. Kelsey's birthday was August 9th. The plan was for us to travel on August 8th, so that way we could get into Albuquerque on the 8th, kind of do the whole, get the groceries, kind of start getting settled. Like the whole fam went. So Kelsey and I, Cedar, Lucy, my mom and dad came out, and my youngest brother Zach. Mom and dad were getting in a little bit later. Zach was going to be getting in a little bit later. So the plan was for us to all get there and kind of uh, relax, hopefully a little bit. Try to get the kids started on settling down, and then on Kelsey's birthday on that Wednesday the 9th, for us to celebrate her birthday and out in New Mexico and just have like a nice fun family day. Well, Delta saw uh, that saying no, we're not, we're gonna mess up your travel plan. So anytime travel plans get messed up, it adds just another layer of stress. like I was talking about at the beginning of all this, like it's already been like a month leading up to internationals. And so we wound up having to travel on Kelsey's birthday. Super bummer. We, can only do so much, and, we're in airports and trying to make the best of it and get into New Mexico, get all the groceries, like went and bought like a tent thing to try to just give us some additional shade, especially with having the kids, not knowing what the park is going to be like. And, um, you know, just tried to make the most of it and didn't have quite as much time to acclimate maybe as we wanted to before everything got kicked off, but you can only do what you can do. So anyway, that was kind of how it started. And then is Thursday before internationals, in the afternoon is when we do registration. So we go get our shirts, packets, information, rotation, all that stuff, and then we go to the park and do walkthrough so we can see what all the events look like before we show up Friday morning to do gear inspection. What I've always loved about that, especially in comparison to a chapter event, is when doing the walkthrough, one, it starts to just kind of like get some of that nerviness out of the way. At least it does for me. Like some people I know struggle with, like, they see all this stuff and they can't sleep at all Friday night. One of the great things about our family growing is that the moment I'm able to fall asleep, I pretty much fall asleep and wake up, around the same time every day so I can start my morning workout routine. So, but in terms of the event, being able to look at everything kind of allows for, a bit of strategizing and stuff like that. But in a very practical way for gear inspection, it makes things loads easier, especially for the aerial rescue event. Like, we don't ever know what the scenario is going to be, what we're going to run into, what tree we're climbing, how it's going to be set up, all that kind of stuff before we roll up. So I'm sure other climbers approach it the same way I do, but like I have a few different ways that I practice aerial rescue, and inevitably, what winds up happening is I bring way too much stuff initially, and then it allows for kind of paring down for the scenario. So in a chapter event, the gear inspectors every year are like, "Come on, man! Like, why are you like you got so much stuff to check in?" I'm like, "Well, I don't know what I'm getting into," and maybe that hits people different ways, but that's just my way of preparing is I'd rather have too much stuff and then try to adapt from there as opposed to rolling up and then being like, daggone it, I wish I had this one thing. So it's it makes it a little bit more expensive to especially to fly, excuse me, um, because I wind up just taking more kit when I'm able to drive to stuff. I don't worry about it nearly as much, but that's just my way of handling it. Like, I know some people approach it in a far more simplistic way, but for me personally, that's the way I handle it. So when we get to do walkthrough before an event, like at the International or at North American, like I I love it because I can automatically be like, oh, good, okay, well, I don't need this, I don't need this, I do need this, kind of a thing. So that way, rolling up to gear inspection, one, I'm just having to lug around less stuff, but two, I already have a plan pretty much in place for what I need. So that's super cool, being able to see all the stuff. Now, what I will say that I uh, I learned from the walkthrough this time, and just to kind of preface it, I think we had 84 climbers in total, male and female combined. So that's a lot of people who are going to have a lot of questions, And if you're not in the right place when announcements are being made or when they're talking through stuff, it's very easy to miss things. Uh, Despite the fact that I feel like I know our rule book quite well and know how this game is played quite well, there's always these subtle, like, little nuances and things that get announced. And, if you miss it, then you then hopefully you can get some sort of clarification from your group, or maybe you hear somebody saying something kind of in passing by. But as a tip to anyone that's listening to this, and when you go to compete, whether it's at the chapter level or on a larger scale level, like a something like Euros or North American or Asia Pacific or the international, make sure that you are intentional about getting close enough and not being distracted by having conversations with people and going ahead and starting to figure out where you're going to throw from, or where, how's that swing going to look, or, what's going on with the victim, kind of thing. Like, be locked in to what people are saying, the questions that are being asked, to ensure that you don't miss something. Um, so, that's a big part of walkthrough, is trying to get clarification on things. And just, from my experience, I hope I can pass that on to other people, of just like, listen, and don't don't assume anything. Just listen. And if you need to get clarification. So anyway, so walkthrough happens. We look at the five preliminary events. The you know throw line was it's always interesting with when you look at throw line, and looking at where unions are taped off. And I had a devil of a time, well, inside the ring during prelims, and I'll talk about that, but also like just trying to identify where stuff was. So, and I don't think I've talked about it on my podcast, but I know I talked about it on Levi's, where like, I'm red green color deficient, and red and green are two very popular colors that get chosen for tape in union, like to identify unions in throw line, or for ribbon on bells, or landing, like landing marks, like where you can't touch below the tape and work climb, or like where you're supposed to touch with, on the limb walk and everything. So with through line specifically, like, and I've talked about it before with the international, of how they tape up what the value is of each of the unions, but they tape, like, where that, like, say a 9 union is at, is it's below wherever that union's going to be. So the colors for this throw line were orange and pink, and like a dark orange. Like, I had a devil of a time finding that side of the tree when we're doing walkthrough. And then pink was the other side. That was a little bit easier to see, because I don't really see pink all that well. It kind of just looks like white. So white against the darker Siberian elm bark actually showed up pretty well. Anyway, but it's also, again, they're working with what they have, and it's easy to get kind of like uh distracted by, like, why in the world is that union taped? Like, I would never tie into that. But the point being is that it's trying to display accuracy and manipulation and all that stuff. So it's more target shooting than it is like actual trying to tie into, like, that's where we would opt to put our rope and tie into with our life. I mean, if the tree has that ability to, I guess, demonstrate that as well, then great. Like in Denmark, um, that's how it was. In Knoxville, that's how it was. In Columbus, that's how it was. Like, I'm sure a lot of, most competitions operate that way of like you're not trying to just like hit a specific target. It would be a target that you would actually want to support your life with. These trees didn't necessarily afford that opportunity, so they were just, the nines were in kind of like crazy spots, which, the folks, especially that got the orange nine, which I don't know how many there were, but I know we had one person in our group, Kyle McCabe, who snagged that nine, and it was just like, I hope he got so many discretionary points for it. Like give him all whatever bonus points he could potentially acquire, because that was just it was a you know it was a gutsy move going for it for one, but then he got it, so that was so you know the I think the height of the nines was like 66 and 68 feet, so nothing like crazy high in the tree, but like kind of difficult to get into. I had the unique experience and just gut wrenching, pride crushing experience of getting a zero in throw line during the prelims. Like I'm not going to dwell on it a whole lot here. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this podcast, like wasting breath on it because it's over and done with. But it sucks. Like you know, I know I didn't handle it probably as well as I could have, especially once I got out of the ring because I knew what a zero meant in throw line, and that that's what my rotation was. That was the first event that I started with was throw line, and right out of the gate was just like, well, there goes Masters. Like it it's difficult if not maybe impossible. Well, I shouldn't say it's impossible, but it's insanely difficult at that level to throw a goose egg and then have any level of thinking you can get to Masters. Now, I remember, like I said to Scotty Forrest when I was talking to him about it, of like, it's like I'm not gonna quit. Like I'm not gonna stop trying and giving it everything I've got. But I am real with what a zero in throw line means. Uh, for anybody that's curious about how that happened, like I shot into the pink nine, got it set up for a double bag, went to score the line. It wasn't completely isolated, so I went to take my shot line out and had taken the wrong ball off, and I still am not totally sure how I did that because the way I set things up is to prevent that. But as I just, for all intents and purposes, choked under the pressure in that moment and took both throw weights off, uh, and pulled my shot line out. And when I pulled my shot line out, it hiked my double bag line 12 feet off the ground, and I couldn't jump and reach it. And there wasn't a great way, an efficient way to try to like huck a throw line up there and try to grab it and pull it back down. And at that point, I'm running out of time. I go try to shoot into the orange seven and staring right into the sun. You know, flip my shield down, through with my eyes closed. I was just burning time. Didn't like that throw line got hung up in something anyway. So I got a zero in throw line, and one of the things that hurts, I will say, one of the things that hurts the most about that is throw line, without a doubt, is the thing that I've practiced the most in this last year because, as I've said before, throw line historically is the one that I just struggle with during prelims, and it it's aggravating. It's it's one of those things of like, at what point am I going to stop being humbled from this experience? I've gotten a -1 in throw line before, and that was during a Naom. But it was kind of the same thing of like throw line was how I started that Naom, and then I had to try to play catch up, and I missed the Masters by I don't even remember how many points. now, but it wasn't a lot. So I was able to make up a whole lot of ground. But unfortunately, a zero in this at the international when you've got like Bardo and Jimmy Kilpatrick and Tongi throwing like 27s, 28s, like that's a freaking huge deficit. So, um, that's moving forward. I ordered, and it's hilarious again because in one breath I said I'm color deficient, and in this next breath I'm saying that I just ordered different colored throw lines. I just I knew Samson Zingit made. I throw the Zingit 1.75 millimeter, but I've always just thrown yellow. I've known they made like a blue color, and I didn't particularly care for it just because it was difficult for me to see. But I did order uh, Zingit blue, Zingit red, and Zingit silver today. So. Uh, and I'll be doing some arts and crafts time with my throw weights. I throw 12-ounce Harrison rockets, and they're black. So I'll be spending some arts and crafts time customizing those because I felt great about my shots. However, not great about my decision making outside of that. So one of my favorite sayings that we say here at True Timber is make new mistakes. So I guess it wasn't necessarily a new mistake in the fact that I goose egged through a line, but uh, the new mistake moving forward is going to be like, okay, I'm going to engineer out, uh, you know, everything looking the same basically, and would be keen to hear other people's ways of thinking about that, and uh, you know, but that's at least this is going to be my attempt at making this never happen again. So, North American tree climbing competition is coming up in October, and I'll be there and competing, and I'm gonna have to walk in and do the throw line prelim, and I'm gonna have three different colored throw lines to try to make this never happen again. I mean, definitely best case scenario is to never have to double bag, but uh, I'm that was embarrassing. And I mean, not embarrassing. I mean, I guess it's kind of embarrassing from the level of like I'm surrounded by the best climbers in the world. Um, I've been able to make it to masters a couple times on the international level, and then I just goose egg throw a line, and now I'm not going to be anywhere. And I wound up not being anywhere close to making it to masters when it all shook out. So it's certainly embarrassing. Like that's why I say like the pride crushing side of it of like, come on, man, you're better than that. Like you should know better than that. You shouldn't be getting scores like that. But at the same time, it's a humbling thing, and that's what I love about tree climbing is every time I've thought I was too big for my britches, basically, like tree climbing knocked me several notches down. And it's, I jokingly said a few minutes ago of like, at what point am I going to stop being like humbled by all this? It's when, uh, like I firmly believe it's when the Lord says, okay, like you know, you now don't have any more of that pride. Because clearly I still have too much of that pride. So definitely a learning experience. You know, probably the lowest I've been ever in a competition, and it was hard to kind of like shake that off. And just another kind of thing I'll share from going through that experience, like, is it's really easy to, and I definitely did this of just wallowing in my own despair around it, and it's not something I'm super proud of, and I don't love the way that I handled it in the moment. But one of the things that helped break me out of that, was certainly my family, loving on me, caring for me, telling me that it doesn't matter if I got a perfect score or zero. I still have a wife that loves me, two rad kids. I've got awesome parents, awesome in-laws, awesome brothers, an awesome community. Like, the amount of people, and super appreciative and thank you to every one of y'all that came up during the competition and tried to make me feel better and give some support. Like it's just great. It's one of the countless benefits that comes from being a part of this community, is just being surrounded by just people who uh, like care, like in a big way, but likely from a competitive side have, you know the amount of people that came up and said to me like, dude, I've totally done that, like I've done that on this level. It hurts. So thank you, thank you, thank you. But kind of another thing that helped me with it, and I made an Instagram post where I kind of did a voiceover with the reel and everything, was thinking through just like everything that it took to even get to this level, all the years of hard work, all the years of training, all the years of pushing and sacrificing, um, to even just be able to put on that shirt and represent one, yeah, represent and climb and give it a go. Like that's its own powerful thing, and not in terms of like, oh yeah, everybody gets a participation trophy, but like the reality of like, I know I was able to go and compete, and I also know there are so many climbers that would have loved to have been there competing and would have been stoked to just be in that ring, whether they got zero or whether, you know, they got a perfect score. And that level of perspective was just, it was super helpful. And I'm quite thankful that that thought process, was put in my, like the Lord provided that thought process to be um, in my head and coping with that. So that was super, super neat, I guess, in a way to go through that experience and then come out on the other side appreciative of just even being able to be there and support folks and just try to make the best of the rest of the event. So right, so that was a long-winded thing. I said I wasn't going to talk a whole lot about it, but I do feel like the lessons learned from that, I think, are quite powerful in how they could potentially help someone else who rolls up with a certain expectation, especially especially when, I know for myself personally, like I devote a lot of time to this, and I have less time to devote to this now than I used to before our family grew, and now our kids are getting bigger, and Cedar's super into golf, and this evening was, all he wanted to do was like throw baseballs and hit baseballs, and like he just has this like athletic ability and aptitude and and desire, right? So we're gonna feed that. Like Lucy's already, like she's doing the same kind of thing, like showing um this aptitude, right? They're gonna have their own passions. Kelsey has her own passions as well. Like she's training for a triathlon and wants to do an Ironman next year, right? So like our family is driven to push ourselves in so many different ways, because we want to know what we're capable of. I see that in our kids already. But, right, it all takes time. Like if Kelsey wants to go and, swim a mile, that's going to take a minute. and then when she gets home, she's going to be tired. Um, and I can't just immediately be like, hey, can you watch the kids while I go like do 6 work climbs in the front yard? Where I'm going with this is that like one of the hard parts is uh, right initially is just to find the time to devote to this craft. And then when you have the time and you pour everything you have into that time to try to prepare and push yourself and grow to, see how you're gonna do on that the biggest stage we have as tree climbers inside the ISA comps is, it's a quick way to potentially take the wind out of your sails of like, do I even want to devote all this time into it again? The moment internationals, right, the cycle restarts, and it's a it it really is this like kind of soul searching thing. And um I mean, I can confidently say that I'm by no means done, and have zero intentions of stopping pushing myself, and I'm proud of that. And it like I said earlier as well, like I can't imagine not driving for this thing. But it's part of where, like, if you saw me at the comp on Friday, and in that headspace, like, very, like, I don't think it was a surprise to anyone that would have walked by and seen me. Like, I was not stoked at all. Like, that's a lot of where that comes from, of like all that just basically crumbling in a lot of ways. And it's a weird thing to be thankful for that. uh I know that's not normal either, to like be thankful for the opportunity to have gone through that experience. But like, it truly is like, failure is not a it's not a real thing. Like Kobe Bryant talked about that all the time, of it's failure's not real. Whether you win or whether you lose, the process should be the same. Like, it should be exciting to take from either of those experiences, and learn from them, to directly start applying those lessons to the next thing, to not, right, like, true failure, as at least as Kobe described it, was like something happens, you fall down, you lose, and you just stay down. Um, and I have zero intentions of staying down. Like that, it's just more more motivation, more inspiration, more fuel for the fire. So, um, I practiced throw line today. I ran a masters this afternoon, like I was saying at the beginning of the podcast. Like, it's in no way, shape, or form stopped my love and devotion for this. It's just a bummer that I've got to wait a few months to even try to qualify for this again. So, but I'm freaking excited to do so. So, get that out of the way. That was a lot of talking around the low point of my international comp. But it was super cool to see how other people just Hulk smashed it, and got some big points. And just the relief of like watching Barton walk out of that throw line ring was just the relief of his high score, and knowing that it was solid was like super cool. Like, I love Barton, like, and have looked up to him for a long time, and appreciate what he brings to our sport, what he brings to our craft. His humble, just legendary, just approach to this, and it clearly works well. And that was a powerful lesson to learn from him, throughout prelims, but then also in masters as well, of that just calm, humble, like demeanor that, yeah, thank you, Barton, for who you are and how you approach this. So, but yeah, it's super rad to watch your homies do well. Like, it's great. And then work climb was what our group did next, and it wasn't my greatest work climb by any stretch of the imagination. I was a little too consumed with trying to go fast because I knew I needed to try to acquire time points, and um, I left some points on the table. Like I didn't make limb toss, and I didn't get both feet in the bullseye, right? So that's points left on the table where historically I don't ever really think about trying to go fast, right? So it's another lesson learned of just because time points exist doesn't necessarily mean that's the thing that needs to get focused on. Like slow and smooth is fast, and focus on that. But I mean, the work climb kind of had a weird, like the high two bells were kind of a interesting transition. Like high handbell was, um, I think a big separator there was the demonstrating like confident movement to it, and because it was kind of a weirder rope angle, and if you thought about it a little too much, it would hang you up. But and then the second station was the Limwalk station, and some people tried to go straight down through this little redirect to it, and it ate up a bunch of time. Most people, myself included, went on the underside of this limb to because it was faster and it set you up well for like good movement to the limb toss station. But it's a pretty flat rope angle, and again, like they're trying to do the best they can with what they have available. So super big attakids shout out to the work climb team of what they were able to create with what they had available, because it was actually quite a fun tree. Hold on one sec. Quite a fun tree. Uh, when I got down, I was like, oh wow, that was actually pretty sick. I've like that had some really really fun movement in it. So pole saw was last station, well, last bell to ring before in the landing, and um, yeah, just fun work climb. Not the biggest thing. I think they said the tie-in point was 68 feet, so it wasn't the biggest tree for internationals, but that's not everything has to be gigantic. Like it was fun nonetheless. Sent So that's how my Friday ended. Went to dinner Friday knowing that like basically I was just gonna try to get a medal in something that was left on Saturday. So we started with ascent, and the bell was at 58 feet, and I put down I think it was a little over 13 seconds. Did the whole like TAS and parallel backup with a trailing backup device and everything. So I got, I think my setup time, I bobbled my TAS just a little bit, but I still did it in 18 seconds. Everything set up, and then changed over and got my changeover points. So I was able to, was fortunate to medal in that. Came away with a bronze medal in the ascent. Um, it seemed that the ascent event was just going to be like the Taz show, so it's cool to see that there's some variation happening now with like the akimbo and the runner. I mean, it's still a mechanical show, and I'm excited for the day when it's just how fast can we go. But I will say with the ascent event, what I do appreciate out of it is knowing that you know we can all build in a scent system quickly. So in the event of an aerial rescue, I'm not sure if this is what the intention behind the event was, and I know everything's got to start somewhere before it evolves to what it's eventually going to. But I do appreciate knowing that, like, just in my daily, like, I have a rescue bag that I keep in the cab of my truck that is dedicated just for access lines and rescue, and in it is my Taz, because I know, like, I can slap that onto a rope and be in the tree wicked fast if I needed to do that. Um, so there are aspects of this that are, I think, have greater implications than you know maybe we want to poo poo on it. But plus there's a like a strategy behind it, and kind of like a bit of that strategy now is played out since it's been around for a few years. But it is just cool to see, like, people problem solve that, and then the fastest times qualify for head-to-head ascents at the end of the day while they're tallying up scores to give us all an opportunity to try to break a world record. And I'll talk about that in a few minutes as well. So left ascent event, then went to aerial rescue. The scenario was, it was a climber on a canopy anchored line, zigzag chicane, had cut themselves with a hand, had lanyard in, went to cut a stub, cut themselves with the handsaw, saw a bunch of blood, let go of their handsaw, was hanging by a lanyard. They were still in ascent mode, so they had their foot ascender on and their chest ascender, or chest harness clipped in, but went into shock and were conscious but not responsive. So then we have to go, up and uh, go and address the situation and try to get them down. So how it was set up, again, like, it wasn't the most complex in a lot of ways of like how to. It wasn't some like giant traverse through the tree. It wasn't some like epic ascent. We had to go up probably 20 feet or so, pass through a union, swing in, and then you pretty much, there were a couple different ways you could go to get to the victim, and you could either opt to go low, or I opted to climb higher to have a better rope angle to then inspect the gear and also try to separate, like demonstrate the separation from the bleeding injury. And so then there's the whole conversation of like, how do you go about triaging that? Like, do you stow the sharp object first to get him out of ascent mode, or do you go ahead and address the bleeding first, kind of a thing? So that was a fun little conversation that was happening, and it was cool to watch the variation between everyone. Yeah, so I came away like I was in fifth in aerial rescue, which is wasn't a medal, but uh, you know happy with the amount of points I got from it, so that was cool. Then we went to Blade Speed Climb. Blade Speed Climb has this. Not everybody's super stoked on it. I'm not historically great at it, even though I'm long, lean, and like my background is in rock climbing, but I just don't move fast that way. It frustrates me every single year, but I still love the event. It's losing points. It seems like every time the rule book changes, and it seems as if it's not going to be around for too much longer, which is sad. But yeah, I mean, the speed climb last year in Denmark was super cool. Like, involved like a big traverse. Our group had the gross misfortune to, like, that was our first event of the weekend, and it had just rained, so it was like ice skating. Fortunately, being in the desert, this year there wasn't a whole lot of rain, and the tree was super dry, but it also had like a fun little traverse in it, and it's just neat, like how these things get set up. Um, Christian Michael Schultz was the head judge, and anytime he's the head judge of anything, it's just going to be like just amazing. He's just an awesome dude, and he just. But yeah, I mean, we had to. one thing that was unique is we had to start in a specific spot on the ground, and it forced us to kind of like curl around the trunk as we were traversing up or like climbing up and go up the stem and reach out, ring the bell, and the longer wingspan of us, it was a lot easier because we could still hold on to this like lead rope, just reach over, tag the bell, and then keep climbing up. Folks that didn't have as great a wingspan certainly had a harder time with that, and I empathize for them. But yeah, and climb it as fast as we could up to um, another handbell, and then we could either like traverse over on this rope or try to jump over, and um, which is fun, like having potential for some dynamic movement, which is again not super normal in tree climbing. And then once you get back or get on the other stem, then it's just like you grab holds and just nubs and stuff, and go as fast as you could. So no, I think the fastest time was 22 seconds, I think is what I remember. Um, so daggone quick. I did it in 30, which I'm always trying to be sub 30 just because I know people are like freaky fast and gonna lay down some like fast times, but it was just that was my last event of the day, and when they said 30, I was like, this just clearly is not my weekend. So I'm proud with how I tried to fight today, and we'll just clap super hard for everybody that made it to Masters and show up on Sunday and cheer them on. So that was prelims. Um, had a I had a fun group. It was cool just again like being with people who like I've been in a group with Kyle McCabe before, but I was able to be in the group with Joe Hedger. So get to watch. I've not been in her group before, so it was cool to like watch her do her thing and learn some stuff from uh from a true master. And yeah, that was cool. Um, yeah, David. Sorry, David, I can't remember how to pronounce your last name. From the Czech Republic, like had a solid weekend and made it inside the top 10, and he won first in the Sin event, which was dope. Threw down like a time in the 12s and had all the other points. So that was cool to be able to stand up on stage with him and Jack Lewis um, from Australia. And I think Jack might have been in the high 12s or the low 13. He definitely had a faster time than me. But still, just yeah, super honored to be able to stand on the podium with those dudes. Um, but yeah, so then we get to Masters and or the announcement of Masters, and the female climbers. I think it's Alana Murray, then Anissa Wynn. So Alana, I think it's Alana Murray. I'm sorry if I'm not remembering that correctly. She's from Australia. Anissa's from Pacific Northwest here in the States. Joe Edger, second, UK Ireland, then just Hammer from Australia. And then on the men's side, uh, James Earhart from Mid Atlantic chapter here in the States. Then Tongi, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce your last name, dude. I'm sorry. But from France. Then I think it was Jack Lewis in third from Australia. Yeah. And then Jimmy Kilpatrick. Everyone knows. Uh, everyone knows him. But representing, he won Euros, but out of Germany. And then Barton Allen Hall, first in prelims again, out of Australia. So the Aussies had a strong presence in at the international this year, and one of the things that was very obvious and super cool was just to see their whole like team there, like the team Australia, like Australian climbing team supporting one another, um, and then it's just super cool. Like I'm jealous in so many ways. But it was just cool to be there and see that camaraderie happening. It's definitely something that I think that every chapter could and really should uh, learn from and not steal. Steal, that's not a good word to use, but definitely start to try to apply, right? Like, and make it our own. Because it was just, you could just see how all that support from one another, like they just fed off of it the whole time. So, super, super, super cool. There was a scoring error. They announced Jamie Boston as number 5 instead of James, and that was super bummer. Was gutted for him. Jamie, I know, puts in a ton of work, ton of effort, and to be announced that you're gonna climb in Masters, and then have to be told, you know, later that actually you don't get to because there was a scoring error, like, is not certainly not a fun place to or fun experience to have. But he handled it like the true just pro that he is, and was just out there just rooting on people, and had a great attitude. And I'm super proud of you, Jamie, and proud to call you friend, and just super keen to see how you use this as fuel to motivate you to push you for next year, because I know it's not going to stop you. And inside that, like, I know, like, it's easy to get like all upset in a lot of ways, but it's at the end of the day, like, again, like, I know I've talked about it, it's volunteers that are doing all this stuff, and most of the time, like, we think about the volunteers as the people we see like at the ring, and not as quickly think about the fact that, like, all those pieces of paper that everybody's writing stuff down on get taken over to volunteers to then start like manually entering that stuff into spreadsheets to make it all like math correctly to give us the final scores and all that stuff. So it's certainly not an easy job. Like, I've done it a few times in a few different competitions as the data guy. I've screwed it up before. That's not a fun feeling. Um, and you know, if the people that were doing the data entry and all that stuff listen to this, like, I just encourage you to not feel bad or embarrassed about it. It's it stuff happens, mistakes happen. I'm glad, at the end of the day, I'm glad things were made right. I would love to have seen Jamie at least get to have a glory run out of it, if not like actually having like a full on crack at it. Just because, like, it's kind of a crappy situation for him. But ultimately we want the people in there that deserve to be in there. And not saying that Jamie doesn't deserve it, because again, he worked his butt off to get there, and um, it just sucks to have that. So maybe this episode should just be like uh teachable moments. That should be the title of it. But that's certainly, I think, a very clear teachable moment of making sure things are checked. And again, like, I'm not trying to say things weren't like double triple checked, but uh just something to apply moving forward. So uh yeah, so announce the Masters climbers, and then everybody shows up, the next day, Sunday, to watch everybody climb. And it was cool to watch um, everybody in their kind of unique takes on it. And then, like, what's also super fun, but at the same time heartbreaking, is like all of us that are on the outside of the ring are like, well, how would you do it? How would you climb? Oh no, I think I'd have done this. And And it made me chuckle all day because it's like we can talk about things all we want, but like we all have had the opportunity now to watch multiple people run this tree, so like we have a better idea as to like what the better rope angle looks like, or what the better tie-in would be, or like what the better redirect, or route, or all that kind of stuff. Whereas like each individual climber that's rolling up has this plan in their head and then tries to execute it to the best of their ability. So what's rad is when you watch somebody, you know, fire off and like really slap it in a way that you like would think it would happen. And yeah, it was super cool. And it was another example of how Masters events are very clearly a training event for everyone that's involved in that, whether you're the climber that's executing the climb, whether you're one of the volunteers involved, or whether you're a part of the crowd. We all learn from that experience. So it's also always fun when it's not just the same climb repeated over and over and over again, like having some variation inside of that. And we definitely got to watch a fair amount of variation, um, choosing one time point over another from the ground and how that like changed things, like whether people set another climbing line in the second tree or try to do a pre-direct or something like that. It's just so cool, like to watch how people problem solve and then try to like think about, like for me, thinking about how I would have done that and then how I can take the things that I learned from every single climber that I saw and apply that to either my training or my day-to-day work. So it was, yeah, super cool. It's always dope to see like a new climber in the ring, or new sets of climbers, and we definitely Australia brought that in a major way. um, but yeah, it was. I mean, like I probably talked with Jack the most out of the uh, Jack Loose out of the climbers, that I didn't know that well. But it was like learning that like Barton has done a lot of training with him, and Jack with Barton, and how they both have this like quiet, like humble demeanor, but they're just freaking savages. So having Barton win, but then having Jack go number two was like, I know, like as um like someone who does a ton of like training of other people, like I very much understand the pride that Barton must feel, and I mean he communicated he felt that as well, but like that person uh, that you've watched grow and develop, it's so cool. It's so cool to just watch the next wave of folks starting to come up. And then all the more inspiring to make sure that everybody's like staying on top of their game. Freaking Victor Magnus, 18-year-old out of Germany, coming in, and I had heard of Victor, but like it's another thing to actually get to meet him, and Victor, if you're listening to this, dude, like keep it up. Like I know we talked about it in Albuquerque, but you got a bright future ahead of you, and I'm super keen and excited to see what you do with it. Yeah, just. But yeah, so like we wrapped up the prelims day with the open ascent, like head to head. Uh, the eight fastest of us, and I was fortunate enough to be able to go head to head. I went up against Josh Burr. Josh Burr and I seem to um, have this relationship where we're constantly going head to head with one another. So Josh, shout out to you. Like it's also been rad to watch your growth and development, and I have nothing but just the highest level expectation, and I'm super excited to see what you do inside this world, inside this industry. But yeah, so I go head to head with Josh, and you know, I set a personal record inside that. I think my time was 9.85 seconds at that height, which you know I was stoked with. I don't, to be honest with everyone, I don't train going fast very often. Just you know, I'm 37. I don't want to push myself for speed and then hurt myself because I'm just getting to. I'm not old uh, at all, but I definitely feel how, despite all my exercise and nutrition and everything, I feel how much longer it takes me to recover from things. So anyway, but then Victor rolls up and has, I think, like two or three missteps and then still beats my time. So like I was fortunate enough to hold a world record for 45 minutes is what I was told after the fact, until Victor rolls up and crushes it and with missteps. So that's what I mean of like we have um you know, Victor, you get those missteps taken care of, like you have a clean run and you're just going to keep pushing that number lower. And it's just super inspiring to like see. I mean, he's Victor, you're half my age. And like selfishly, I have an incredible amount of pride in the fact that I was at least able to be that close to your number, being, you know, twice your age. So, but that's kind of what I mean of like as we do this longer, you know, and I'm again like not intending to slow down at all and continue to push, but it's so freaking cool to watch the next generation start to, because he came in 10th. Victor came in 10th in his first international at 18. Like, what? Like, that's so cool. That's so cool. Like, we just don't know. Like, each of us have now all gone home or are in the process of going home. And, you know, we're all thinking about it. Like, I know I haven't stopped thinking about internationals. Been talking now for over an hour about it. And right, so then you start thinking about like, well, all these folks that I was hanging out with are all going to be training all year. But then like who else is out there? Like who else is going to take, you know, this to the edge of what we thought was possible, and push it further? Like can somebody defy like just thinking about like traveling like for the ascent event, like can somebody break 8 seconds, right? Because that seems like wild to me that somebody would go that high that quick. But like I'm not going to be surprised at all in my lifetime if somebody breaks 7 or even 6 seconds. Like I don't quite know how that's possible. And I think there's a lot of like defying physics maybe that comes from it. Like at what point is there a diminishing like level of proficiency and efficiency and all that kind of stuff? But like at the same time, like who knows? Like let's go. Let's see who can do it. Like I know I'm gonna be trying to get my time down to like it'd be cool if I could break 9 seconds. I don't think I can do that, but like I think it'd be a fun thing to like why not try for it other than, you know, hurt. But um it's just it's fun like to feed off one another, to know that like people are training hard like in another part of the world makes me want to get up early to train hard. It's just in so many ways the way I was raised, and the model that our dad and mom set out for us. Um So it's just cool to be able to like live this life, uh, right? Because this is what we've got. So we might as well, give it everything we have. And that's why I mean like, and why I referenced Kobe earlier of like it's not it's not failure. It's we're and it's not really winning. It's just a next like we should love the process. We should love the preparation. We should love every aspect that goes into playing this game, or at least that's how I feel about it. Like I love getting, to the end of a day where I've been climbing all day and be like, I'm gonna go run a masters, or like I'm gonna go spend 30 minutes just hucking throw a line. I'm excited to have different colored throw lines that I won't be able to see. uh, that's what I mean of like this whole process, because ultimately the goal is for, or at least for me, the goal is twofold: to get better, to grow, to be the best version of me I can be, and simultaneously through that hope that I'm able to inspire others around me to do the same freaking thing. And and you know I'm just psyched to see how that goes, right? Because the whole ripple effect from it means that this industry that I love so dearly, and I know that so many of my friends love so dearly, that will then start to spread out further, and eventually all these ripples will meet. And I think about like Cedar and Lucy, like whether they go and climb trees or not is like it'd be, on the one hand it would be cool, on the other hand it would be like I wouldn't mind if they did maybe something a bit more lucrative. But ultimately I want them to follow their passions the same way my mom and dad wanted me to follow my passion, and here I am. It's 10:30 at night and I'm talking into a microphone about daggone tree climbing competitions because I haven't talked about tree climbing enough today. Um, but like that's what I hope for Cedar and Lucy, is that they find their passions and then just pour everything, like every part of them into it, just to see how far they can push it. Because I watch Kelsey; she's done the same thing, that is doing the same thing. Uh, but then, like, it makes me excited to think about like when Cedar and Lucy are, 37 and the life they're living. And I know arboriculture is just going to keep going. Like, even if they're not arborists, like I'm just so curious to know what tree climbing comps are going to be like in 20 years. And I know I'm not gonna, it's not going to be like a distant thing. Like, if I'm blessed and fortunate enough to still be alive in 20 years, which I'm hopeful, that all this like care around my health and my body allows for that. But anyway, like I'm just so curious that like 20 years from now, what is this going to look like? Like what things are we doing now, like that are, inspiring people to be better? Like how is the event going to change? How is climbing going to change? How, like, swinging will always be swinging through a tree, but like will people like have more of a scientific approach and be able to like apply like angles like in a different, I don't know, like it's just neat to think about like the direction we're heading. Like in no way shape or form is this stagnating. Like we are growing, like the things that we care for, these trees that are just pushing into um, pushing into their environment, like pulling pulling resources and soaking up sunlight. And root systems are communicating with the root systems of other trees, right, and tapping into this entire network. Like, right, it's all happening because like it just feels so good to grow. So why in the world wouldn't we grow? uh, yeah, yeah, I can honestly say this is this international has had the most impact on my, like, on me personally, than the other three combined. Uh, there's been a lot of just a lot like I can feel the growth already in both mental and physical and just that flame for it and the stoke for it and it's going to be an exciting year. I'm excited to do push-ups when I get done with this podcast while I'm waiting for it to process and then go through the editing thing. I'm excited to wake up early tomorrow morning and do more push-ups and do pull-ups and go outside to my rope that's hanging in a tree and do my foot locks and practice throw line and hopefully I can get some work climb or two in one of my trees in the yard. So tomorrow that's what I mean of like this isn't this isn't anything but an opportunity, right? For all of us. For the person who came in dead last as well as Barton and Joe, like and all of us in between. And even all of us that or all the folks that weren't fortunate enough to get the opportunity to dance in New Mexico this time. It's all an opportunity for us to just try to learn from these experiences, take what we can, and push ourselves forward. And yeah, I think on that's probably about the best way I could think to end it. Uh, Thanks for listening to this. I'm keen to hear other people's thoughts. What those that were in New Mexico and those that weren't, like what you've learned in the now week that has followed, like things you're going to start applying. Like I know there are comps that are happening like this weekend. So like this turnaround is wicked fast for some folks. Others are going to have to wait like a good long while until your chapter event. Like I know we've got North American in October. Um, but the yeah, I'm just keen to hear your thoughts. Again, like I'm super appreciative and thankful to everyone who came and found me in New Mexico and was just like, man, where's episode 4? Like, when's that coming out? I thought there was going to be one coming out before. And it would have been cool to have one before, to do a before and after type deal. But again, like, this is something I'm learning and growing in and of itself. So, but yeah, thank you so much for those of you that listen to this. Super appreciative. Like if you share it with others, but even if you don't, like I hope that just this is helpful to you, and maybe it inspires you to go out and just huck a throw line a little bit, so you don't have the experience I just had, or something like share it with somebody. Uh, just that's really what this is. Is let's just all just try to be a little bit better today than we were yesterday. And if we can do that by the time our life cycle ends, we can rest easy knowing that we gave it everything we had and be thankful for that time and for all these opportunities. And but ultimately also thankful for the fact that we didn't just hoard all this information and uh, and keep it to ourselves. That we're ready, willing, and able to share our experiences, to share our knowledge, to share our stoke. Like just do that. Go out there today and share something great with somebody. You have no idea how much that can change somebody's life. I'm forever indebted to the climbers in my chapter. James Earhart's top of that list with Drew Donovan and Chris Coates and Flint Anderson and Mike Blashford and you know like they're the reason that I wanted to keep pushing myself, and they're the reason that um, I get to I get to just have a whole lot of fun ringing bells, and I'd be nowhere without Kelsey, and my mom and dad, my brother, both brothers, Corey and Zach, and then my kids. Like, it's just very blessed to have the family and the community that that I have, and it's for nothing that I feel like I've really done. It's just been that's why I'd like intentionally use the word blessing, because I don't deserve any level of it. But I get to rest and feel confident and inspired and stoked and just thankful for these people and for this opportunity. So episode 5 hopefully will be coming out within the next couple weeks, and yeah, give this a like, give it a share. Hit me up on Instagram at climbingjeff. You can find me probably best there. You can hit me up on Facebook or Facebook Messenger, Jeff Inman. My email for this is smoothsaw@gmail.com. So feel free to shoot me a line there, and it'd be fun to just, yeah, take this, grow it, expand it to see where it can go. And hopefully it sounds like folks are wanting to do a little bit of the interview thing. So I'll be looking to do that in the near future as well, trying to get some folks on here and have this be more than me talking into a microphone late at night. So thanks again. Get out there, ring some bells, do some push-ups and pull-ups, eat some good food, make sure you drink plenty of water, and thanks to Fellowship for the intro and the outro music. Thanks to True Timber Arborists for sponsoring this and getting a microphone and some of the AV stuff to make this a little bit more sweet. Of course, big thanks to Arborshots for the cover photo, and massive thank you to ISA for putting on an awesome event. Can't thank you all enough, both for the competition and the conference. It was all super great, and thanks for making it as awesome as it possibly could be. Yeah, produced, edited, all that stuff by me. It's just me in my basement late at night talking into a microphone and recording stuff. So it hopefully will get sweeter as time goes on. But thank you to everyone who takes the time to listen to this, whether it be on your commute to work, whether you're training for your next comp, or you're just trying to find some inspiration for the next thing to do. I greatly appreciate you choosing this podcast, and hope it's helpful to you in some way, shape, or form.